good evening, wherever you are in the world and whatever platform you are watching / listening to. This is Wrestling with Faith. Going further on with the wrestling volumes on this podcast, in which we cover everything from faith, wrestling, of course, good old wrestling, and also mental health issues as well. So if you ever want to get on it, don't hesitate to get in touch at faith_wrestling on Twitter or on youtube.com/wrestling with faith UK and on facebook.com wrestling with faith UK as well. Let's go straight into it. That's my intros done. That's me unashamedly plugging where we are. And let's get into it. The main man of 1PW in the UK. An awesome guy who I've had the pleasure, one of my best friends has put me in touch with this gentleman I'm about to introduce you to. And without further ado, let's get into it. The main man of 1PW, Mr. Steve Gauntley. Steve, most important question I'm going to ask you today. How are you, sir?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. Maybe a 7 out of 10, maybe an 8, you know, maybe an 8.
Steve, you're spinning a lot of plates with promotions, etc., etc. So, yeah, I really, really appreciate the time that you are taking to be on the podcast today. So, Steve, let's get straight into it. I want us to really, or should I say you mostly, to give us some context, give us some history about 1PW and obviously what's going to be happening this weekend as well. So the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, well, I will just say before we get to the wrestling, that's a big shout out to Amjad, my next door neighbour, who is your mate.
100%. Mr.
So
Nawaz.
Bizarre, like, so it's so funny how like synchronicities work, isn't it? So like the only of all my neighbours, I get on with all my neighbours, but Amjad's like my mate. Yes. And of all the neighbours that's my mate, he's the one who you know. So pretty cool, really.
And he's just such a top guy as well, like legitimately. Not just saying this because this is going out, you know what I mean? But he knows.
You'll never watch this though.
Well, I've known this guy for
too busy with 2 young'uns.
Well, I've known him for 9 decades now, like, and yeah, you are right. He's got his hands full with 2 little ones in there, little Axel and Idris as well. But I'm sure Emma's going to keep them all 3 of them in check. But yeah, Steve. So obviously you're Amjad's neighbour. He knows that I'm an absolute wrestling nerd / geek. Not even going to apologise to anybody in the world for that. And he's obviously, you know, he's connected the dots in you and I. So 1PW, what was the origins and how has it gone from where it started from to where it is today?
Yeah, well, this super sort of abridged version, because there was a book out about 1PW and it was a very, very long book. It's like War and Peace, like this book. So the super quick version is started 1PW when I was 25 years old, and it quickly grew to become like a phenomenon, really. Yeah, so it was a massive, massive company back in the day. Worked with all the top wrestlers of the day, biggest shows in the UK, and for various factors and reasons, mostly as has been documented, my like addiction issues and mental health issues as the company went on, and the stress I was under when I was sort of 26, 27. It went away and I lost everything, and I spent a long time suffering through that, but then obviously rebuilt my life gradually, painstakingly, to be back where I am today. The opportunity presented itself maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I met my business partner, who's a successful promoter, and we started talking. He'd been a 1PW fan when he was a teenager, went to my shows. I'm 10 years older than him. So again, synchronicities. And we planned it for a very long time. Like, we were going to do it before the pandemic. I think the pandemic was, weirdly, this sounds funny, but it was good for this because it slowed the process down. We planned it out more. And then last October 1st, which was 17 years to the day since the first show that I promoted, we did a new twist of fate, which was the return of 1PW. Since then, we've done the show in Lincoln. We're back on Saturday with the 3rd show, and it's gone beyond our wildest expectations on every level of what we could have hoped would happen. So yeah, that's kind of the like 60-second version of the 1PW story.
I was going to say we've got a little bit longer, Steve, but no, I think encapsulated everything. I mean, obviously, you and I have been having chats on the phone as well, sort of since pre-Christmas, on and off as well. And you know, me being a wrestling nerd, I'm fully aware of one PW and some of its history as well. And I'm so blessed and so honoured to be able to come down with family members and friends. And a big shout out as well to you, as well as our candle lighters charity that we represented as well. So obviously really appreciate the opportunity for candle lighters in Leeds and some of those kiddies as well and their families to be able to come down this Saturday at the Donny Dome, which is going to be an epic event. Now, you've touched on it there. You've had some of the top wrestlers throughout mainstream wrestling over the past X amount of years. Just spit out some of the names, if not all the names that you can remember that have been sort of graced the 1PW events.
Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Jeff Jarrett, Bret the Hitman Hart, Ric Flair, Lance Storm, Tommy Dreamer, the Sandman, Raven, Rob Van Dam, Mickey James, Loki, Austin Aries, the Briscoe brothers. I feel like this is like a game show. Like how many? Because my memory is not what it was. Like I never had the best of memories, and
generation game.
You know,
going across the conveyor belt.
yeah. And then at the same time as working with Jeff Jarrett, Harry Smith, Masato Tanaka, I've got a few more that come into me. Like literally a who's who. And on top of that, then working with a younger talent that then went on to become much bigger names. So the WWE commentator Corey Graves, obviously I used to work with him when he was still in James Keenan in his younger days. And he credits 1PW with his big break in his career, and I'm still in touch with him. Got a lovely message from him actually saying that him and Spud, which is Drake Maverick in WWE, well, he's not quite on TV now, but he works there.
Right. Yeah, he does, yeah.
And he said him and Spud were reminiscing about the old days in 1PW, and he says that he's really rooting for us to succeed, which I thought was a lovely message to get from Corey Graves. I met Pac when he was 19 years old, when he was still working in a factory, and he was just breaking through. And obviously you see the career that he's gone on to have. And a lot of other talent. I just remember Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness were in 1PW as well. So those just popped back in my head.
Mr. McGuinness as well, who's now signed up with Tony Khan's Ring of Honor as well. And obviously AEW. And by the sounds of it, he's going to be at the Wembley event as well for AEW. So that'll be awesome. Yours truly is already put his name down to try and get tickets for that. But that'll be a mad scramble. But yeah, I mean, 1PW, I mean, you've just mentioned some of the names. I mean, we're not talking sort of semi-head of wrestlers. We're talking the cream of the crop from ECW, from WWF/WWE, but also from TNA/Impact Wrestling, as well as Ring of Honor. You know, like we just mentioned earlier, and you know, and various others. You know, New Japan as well, and some of these that you've mentioned, and some that are going to be there this Saturday, like Taya Valkyrie, and obviously her husband, John Morrison as well. You know, they've graced other promotions such as AAA, you know, and things like that as well. So you've managed to encapsulate a huge sort of worldwide and varied style of wrestler in both the men and women's division. Was it a very difficult process to start to make these sort of contacts, or do you feel blessed? Was there any sort of other connections and synchronicity across the way, or was it just through sheer graft and hard work of just making contact with the relevant agents?
Yeah, you know, I really focus more on the present day than the past because, as I said, my memory sort of does residually fade away there. Like I've got a lot of miles on the clock, if you know what I mean.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that.
And yeah, so this time around, it was really, obviously I did know people and I had contacts, but it was very, very difficult to get the right contacts and to get people. So from 18 months ago, when we were just reaching out, going, right, how can we contact X, Y, and Z? How can we build a reputation amongst the talent? How can we do this? To today, where I could directly contact a number of people easily, It's been a lot of hard work, to be honest, this time to get to this point. And obviously then we work with talent, like when we worked with Rob Van Dam, they come in, and it's like a professional setup. They're looked after, everything's done really professionally, and then they go away and sort of they will speak highly of it. So like when we had Rhino and John Morrison were in Lincoln, and they were sort of blown away by the professionalism and the production and the backstage atmosphere. So then they obviously speak very highly of it to other talent, and it kind of sort of goes from there, really.
That's so important, isn't it? Because like anything in life, you're only as good as your last gig, you know, in any aspect. And from that, as you well know, you know, bad news can always spread. Bad news does spread quicker than good news. People are quick to moan more than they are to praise something and to give it the thumbs up and a good review. So that must help. Obviously, talent going on speaking to other talent right across the globe and sort of, you know, piquing their interests as well. So done brilliant there. I mean, really looking forward to obviously this Saturday's event. You know, let's plug that as well. I mean, who have we got at the Donny Dome? Give us the name of the event, and also let's not forget as well some of the up and coming British talent that's also going to be mixing in as well.
Yeah. And there is some fantastic talent in Britain, as good as anywhere in the world. They just need a platform, which is what we provide, I believe. So basically, we've had the 2 shows. I think the second show far surpassed the first show. We increased all the production, and I think that this third show, which was returning back to Doncaster into the bigger venue, is trying to combine the best elements of both show 1 and 2. So I believe genuinely that this is going to be the best production value that anyone's seen from a British independent show on this show, and it's going to blow away the last 2 shows we did in terms of the lighting, the production, the screen, all the presentation elements that are going into it. So we've got that aspect. So we've got this gorgeous venue that's going to look beautiful, and it's going to present our talent as stars. So this is all about building the next generation of British talent. But yeah, the theme of this show, so it's called All or Nothing. So we are using all the old 1PW show names from back in the day. So we had like a New Twist of Fate was named after a Cruel Twist of Fate. No Turning Back was as an old show name, and All or Nothing was. So the theme of All or Nothing is we're crowning all 4 champions on Saturday night. So we're crowning the 1PW World Tag Team Champions, the 1PW Openweight Champion, the 1PW, for the first time ever, because I never promoted women's wrestling before, the 1PW World Women's Champion, and of course, the 1PW World Championship. So all 4 being decided, but in 4 very different sort of situations, let's say.
Yep. That's fantastic. I mean, I've been looking at the designs of the belts as well on social media. I mean, we're going to get you to plug the socials just towards the end of this interview, but the belts look amazing, man. I mean, you know, like I say, I'm unashamedly a wrestling geek, and I analyze things that most wrestling fans or some wrestling fans wouldn't. And looking at some of that, I was looking on there on the Facebook page last night as well, and just some of the designs just look amazing. And we're going to get to crown four new champions. Is it going to be 4 new champions this Saturday?
I'll very quickly. Yeah, I love those belts. We put a lot of thought into the design of them. I think that they're very modern but very classical looking belts.
Yeah.
So the tag titles are being decided in a 4-team ladder match, which is presented by Blacksmith. Because I was a rebel when I'm younger, and now I'm just like a corporate sellout who sells sponsorships. Like, it's, you know, where being a rebel got me? Nowhere. Like, so yeah, this is me. I feel like in Wayne's World, where they go, we will not bow to corporate sponsors, because we've got 3 corporate sponsors on this event, and that's how we can deliver an event like this. Otherwise, it wouldn't make mathematical sense. Presented by Blacksmith. So I've got to get my sponsors in there. So you've got the Bullet Club, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, versus Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel, the Rascals, versus Subculture, who are from NXT UK, versus Derice and Leon Slater, Boisterous Behaviour. And the Rascals and Boisterous Behaviour had an amazing match at the last 1PW show. So this is a ladder match for the tag team titles. So it's sort of like somebody call the police, isn't it? Because this stow's about to get shown. You know what I'm saying? I can't even talk. I'm that excited.
Honestly, I mean, this is full on X Division material, isn't it? And if anybody has seen any X Division title matches, But then if you put the tag team element in that as well, I mean, you've got some seriously athletic dudes here. You know, you've got the current Impact Tag Team Champions, you know, in Bullet Club. And you've also got, I mean, Trey Miguel. I mean, some of the matches that he's had with TJP
as well,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, Trey Miguel, you know, obviously, you know, phenomenal. I mean, some of the stuff that I've seen him do with TJP in the past as well, you know, it just, you look at it and you just think it's not just wrestling, it's an actual art form. And, you know, these men and women, as you know full well, it's graft. It's full on graft, isn't it? To be physically fit, to make sure that everything that you do is safe, done well. You've got great chemistry with somebody in the ring, but then when you've got 8 people in the ring all at once, it's got to be on point. And with that talent you've mentioned there for that match, that's got everything to be the scene stealer of the show as well. You said this is the first time you promoted women's wrestling, so talk us through the women's championship then. So what's the build up been like to that, and tell us who who obviously the competitors are.
The women's title, excuse me, is being defended in a gauntlet. Decided. I'm that excited about the show. I cannot talk today. So it's being decided in a gauntlet for the gold match, which essentially basically is competitors enter it. I got to remember the rules. So competitors enter at 90-second intermissions. Elimination is over the top rope until it gets down to the final 2 competitors, in which case it goes to pinfall or submission. The winner will be the first ever in history 1PW Women's World Champion and get that gorgeous belt that we've shown off online. The story going into the match, or the situation is that in Lincoln we had a triple threat match with Ruby Soho, Lizzie Evo, and Session Moth Martina. The loser of that match had to enter the gauntlet first, and the winner got to enter last. So Lizzie Evo enters the gauntlet first. She's on a losing streak in 1PW, and she's got the longest odds of winning. And Martina's won the last 2 matches and is the crowd favourite. And then we've got a collection of some of the best women's athletes in Europe as the other competitors in that. And that's a featured match on the show. So I genuinely think that's going to hold its own on a card that's like world class.
100%. I mean, and you'll potentially back me up on this as well. You know, women's wrestling has really kicked on in the past 15 years. Certainly, you know, we've gone away from the sort of the divas side of things, and now it's become like, actually, there's some genuinely talented female wrestlers out there that thankfully now are getting opportunities, not just on the indie scene, not just on the 1PW scene as well, but also the mainstream TV side of wrestling as well, you know, with AEW, you know, our very own Jamie Hayter being on there as well, you know, being the women's champion in AEW, and Impact Wrestling.
Jamie Hayter, who lost to Session Moth Martina on our show in October, by the way.
Yes, she did. Yes,
she was on the 1PW show.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's great, and it's awesome that you guys are obviously just further encouraging that by making it a really, not just a filler match or a countdown to the main event match, but an actual main event, a talking point of the overall show. You've also got
it's a co-main event to me. Obviously, every match on this show could main event any independent show in the world, I believe, but it is a co-main event with the 2 world titles being decided back to back at the end.
100%. And I also saw on the poster as well, if I'm not mistaken, Lance Archer as well. Big Lance on there.
So it's the 1PW World Title Tournament. So there are 4 qualifying matches, 4 singles matches, and the winner of each match goes into the Fatal 4-Way main event of the evening. And the 4 qualifiers are Lance Archer versus Nathan Cruz.
Oh, come on.
Mark Haskins and Ulf Herman. And Ulf Herman being a former 1PW World Champion himself.
Yep.
Martin Stone, another former world champ, who's his first time he'll have wrestled in the UK since pre-pandemic.
Wow.
Versus Cara Noir, Cara has been a massive feature on our shows so far. And Bobby Fish versus the guy that everybody's talking about, Mr. William Ospreay. who is medically cleared, and this is his first match back on Saturday night.
That is epic. I mean, every one of those competitors there is money. Absolute money, every single one of them. I was a bit fearful when we first started talking about the event, and you showed me. I thought, Will Ospreay, I'm pretty sure he's fairly banged up after the Kenny Omega match, and you know there was obviously he had to cancel some appearances, didn't he, as well?
Yeah.
And when I saw that he was officially cleared, I thought this is going to be cash, because you know Dave Meltzer's favorite wrestler by all accounts as well at the moment, or you know yeah, can't get enough of Will Ospreay. But I tell you, if nobody has seen Will Ospreay, number one, don't they have internet where you live? And number two, get on it. Seriously, this guy is unbelievable. Power, high flying ability, and risk taking, but just makes it look effortless.
And I think as well with Will, the great thing with Will is that's fantastic. He's a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal work rate, Dave Meltzer type wrestler, because that's not my thing really personally. Like, I'm a very old school wrestling fan because I've been following wrestling since the early 80s.
Yeah.
So Will is this phenomenal, amazing athlete, unparalleled what he can achieve in competition. But to me, the thing that's really brought his game together and made him, like, you know, it's always debatable and it's subjective, but in many people's eyes, he's the premium professional wrestler in the world right now.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that's made him that, as he's matured and grown a little bit older, is his psychological game, his ability to work a crowd, his understanding of the pacing of a fight. You know, I always go into podcasts going, I'm not going to break kayfabe. That's why I'm very careful with my words. But yeah, so it's hard to describe someone's performance, isn't it, without slightly sort of bending those rules a bit. But yeah,
100%.
It's the psychological game that he brings to it. Like, the match, actually, it's free on YouTube all this week until the show. We've given away this week the main event from No Turning Back, which was Will Ospreay versus Robbie X.
Wow.
And Dave Meltzer, if you're into Dave Meltzer stuff, Dave Meltzer give it 4.75 stars. But I swear, watch that, go and watch it on YouTube. It's a phenomenal story, like the story within the match and the build and the emotion, and Rob firing up against him and trying to be on his level and then achieving being on his level. And I won't give away the ending of the match if anyone's not watched it. But yeah, amazing stuff.
See, this is it as well, though. I mean, you and I both know we are decades-long wrestling fans. You know, we remember when all we had to go at was WWF. You know, that was pretty much it. And then to you and I, we're back in the day when we only had 4 TV channels in the UK. You know, we had Championship Wrestling with Big Daddy, Kendo Nagasaki, Giant Haystacks.
Hey, I'm old enough, mate, to remember when Channel 4 launched and we were like, yes, 4 channels, get in.
Pretty sure Brookside was the first program as well, but I could be wrong. That might be a pub quiz one, that for me. I'll have to Google that one. But yeah, I mean, like, and obviously, you know, we had Davey Boy Smith, Fighting Finlay, and all them guys back in the day as well.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, your William Regals coming through the ranks and things like that. And to see where wrestling is now as a global phenomenon. And I'm so pleased that there's more competition out there, because me personally, last 15 years, WWE is just not ticking all the boxes for me. I appreciate it's got its own target audience in terms of it wants to be more family based. I get that. But I just want to see people go at it, simple as, and without any restrictions, just showing their talent. Yes, done safely. Yes, done correctly. But I want to see people showcase the best of their abilities and not be restricted in that. And it's great now that we've got access to 1PW. It's great that we've now got access and we can go back to our indie shows the world over as well. But not only that, House of Glory, AAA. You know, we've got New Japan, AEW, Impact, MLW. There's so much content out there now for us to go and look at, and it's just, would you agree it's a great time to be a wrestling fan?
Oh yeah, and I always sound old when I say this, because it's a bit like all of that you just described is literally, I can pick this magic device up and see it at the touch of my finger. And when I was younger and I could only follow WWF, and then I was so excited when WCW videos came in Woolworths.
Of course, yes.
And then when I was like 12, 13, I got into tape trading. So I would convince my stepmom to write a check, which I would get. I'd buy these like wrestling fanzines at school, and there'd be an advert for like some dodgy tape trader in the back. And I'd convince my stepmom to write a check, and I'd wait for 6 weeks. I remember waiting 6 weeks for. I get my timelines mixed up, so I don't know how old I was, but I remember waiting for the Mick Foley, Terry Funk, IWA King of the Death matches.
Oh, man.
And just waiting 6 weeks for it to come on. And when it finally came, it was like some 14th generation copied videotape, so you could barely see the picture. It's all grainy. And that to me, and that anticipation. But now, obviously, I say I've got the magic device and I can just watch anything. So maybe there's too much wrestling. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah. But the great thing is, though, you can now pick and choose what type of wrestlers you want to see and what stories you want to get behind and get involved in and get immersed in. So yeah. There is a lot on there, and there's a lot to subscribe to as well. What there isn't is enough hours in the working week. But yeah, I mean, on that as well, you know, we're almost coming to the close of the podcast. What I want you to do now, Steve, is plug the next few events, all the events that you've got coming up, including this weekend, where people can still get tickets from, and also all the socials as well. So the floor is yours. And then I'm going to ask you a quick fire, couple of wrestling questions that's going to put you on the spot that I've not prepped you for. So fire away.
Okay, so just before I do that, very quickly, the one match that we didn't mention was the 1PW Openweight title is being contested in a scramble match with Frankie Kazarian, Leo Rush, Robbie X, Scotty Rourke, Callum Newman, and Luke Jacobs. And it's like a 20-minute countdown with interim champions. And the last person to score a fall at the end of that 20 minutes will be the first Openweight champion. And that's a belt historically that was held by like Pac, Greg Burridge. There was a classic Nigel McGuinness Burridge Ironman match in the Dome when McGuinness was the ROH champion. They went to a draw. So it's a lot of history with that belt as well. So yes, we've got this Saturday coming up. There are still limited tickets available, and also there's a Will Ospreay meet and greet that only got added yesterday. That's nearly sold out. So if anyone wants to, really doesn't do meet and greets, he really doesn't do them, but as a special one-off for this event, he is doing some limited meet and greets. So if you want a chance to meet the Billy Goat, then go to 1pwtix.com now. I am a promoter, mate. I am. And then after that, we're June the 10th. We are back with Devil's Due in Lincoln at the Engine Shed. And then August 12th, we're back in Doncaster Dome for Know Your Enemy. And all these are old 1PW show names as well. I think that's all. And go to 1pwshop.com for all the 1PW merchandise, etc., etc. Yeah.
Fantastic, mate. You've done this before, haven't you, Steve? Do you know what I mean? That was
also, if you like wrestling figures, go to onefall.co.uk because I've heard that they are a very good wrestling merchandise company. Somebody told me that they were good.
Fantastic. I'll check that out myself anyway, much to the annoyance of my missus. I love that. Absolutely. Just go for it, mate. There's no shame in plugging anything and everything to do with 1PW.
Hey, it's my job. Too many wrestling promoters forget. Too many wrestling promoters do it because they're trying to buy friends, or they want to be in the wrestling business, or they want to say that they're friends with some famous wrestler.
Yeah,
I'm a wrestling promoter. None of that. Excuse me. I don't know if this is a swear podcast or not.
Probably not. That's fine. It's all gravy. Yeah.
But I'm not. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. I am a wrestling promoter to promote and to make a business and to be blessed that I get to live the life I live and be creative alongside some of the most talented, creative and business people that I've met in my lifetime. And that's why I'm a wrestling promoter. And yeah, I'll get off my soapbox now anyway.
No, but praise God for that, man, because I think just in this short interview that we've had, we've not just seen and heard about 1PW, but I think more importantly, we've heard about you and your fascination as a wrestling fan, where that grew up with, how it started, the issues that you had along the way, and how you've managed to just overcome all those issues and to get back on the horse, to have a pandemic hit when you were just about to start to get the ball rolling again, which you say was a blessing in disguise, you know, because it allowed you to sort of drop the gears and just take it slowly and do it far better than what you may thought you could have done initially. And I think it's just testament, you know, praise God for that, man, that you've come out the other side of that. And here we are today.
Yeah.
We're on a podcast. We're talking about 1PW, and we're just flying off names like Frankie Kazarian and you know, Lance Archer and Will Ospreay, and man, I'm going to be within feet / spitting distance of these wrestlers on Saturday night, man. And I'm just
Don't
fanboying
spit
out.
at them though; you'll get ejected, mate. Don't spit.
Mate, I've seen Lance Archer, mate. I want to even sneeze in his direction, let alone spit in his
He's one of
direction.
the only one. You know, I'm nearly 6.5 foot, and so it's really nice when he's one of the only talent that's bigger than me, which I always really love when a wrestler's bigger than me, because I'm like, for whatever reason, I don't know why, because my dad was only 6 foot. Like, my mum's a midget. She's not an actual. That's not politically correct, is it?
No.
Let's move on.
Your mum's not a 6-footer. That's what we're saying. Your mum was never going to be a basketball.
No, she's like 5'2". So I don't know where. I don't know.
But yeah, I think someone like Lance Archer, he'd have no trouble in using someone like me as a toothpick, and not being scared about where he throws it when it's done. But yeah, awesome. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm really, really blessed and appreciate your time today and the time that we've had on the phone. Yeah, I mean, I'll be screaming from the rafters, and just getting everybody else who's coming with me, just going for it as well. And I just know it's going to be an absolutely mega, just full on amazing event as well. So everybody get yourself down there, man, because it's going to be class as well. And like I said earlier, we're going to get some of the kiddies from our Candlelighters charity, which Steve has kindly supported and blessed with as well. And we're going to give those families a class day out as well. So it's going to be amazing.
Have a great time.
We're going to end it on a really light note here, Steve. So congratulations, Steve Gauntley. You have become the captain of your own Survivor Series team. Amazing. Well done.
Okay.
Now, the only drawback is you're going against me, who's the captain of my Survivor Series team. But you've got to show your cards before I show mine. You've got four wrestlers that are still with us, that have gone to be with the Lord, or that have retired from any promotion in any era. Which 4 wrestlers, male or female, do you choose to have your back in a Survivor Series team?
Oh, good God. Well, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Don't make wrestlers like that anymore.
No.
Oh, God. I'm gonna actually have because this isn't about talking people into the building. So I'm gonna pick Stone. I'm gonna have Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm gonna have the original Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom. There we go.
All right. So that's 3. Yeah. So you've got Stone Cold, you've got Animal, you've got Hawk, you've got one more.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll have Ric Flair as the last guy then, because he's another one of my sentimental favourites.
Okay, so to counter your Road Warriors, I'm going to go Axe and Smash, Demolition, original Demolition, because they were my favourites growing up. I couldn't decide whether it was them or LOD were my favourites, but they were both.
I love the theme tune. I've got it on my iTunes, mate.
Mate, I've got that as well. And I've also got, and this is another one I'm going to put in there as well, just for the sheer charisma, just for the unpredictability of this individual. I'm going to put in there Jake the Snake Roberts as well, just for pure fandom. And who knows what he's going to do with Damien as well. And also as well, I'm going to bring it a little bit more modern as well, because you brought in Stone Cold, somebody who's quite heavy hitting, not afraid to ruffle feathers, knows how to get a crowd going. I'm going to bring in somebody of a different, a really different style of wrestling altogether, but who I think is just equally amazing to watch in this day and age. And I'm going to go Kenny Omega with that. I'm just a big fan of Kenny. And I just think, I don't know, the various different styles of wrestlers, but I could just see something going off there. And I know Dave's going to give us 4.8 out of 5, at least, for that main event anyway. Yeah. But also as well, congratulations.
I just want to hear the Jim Cornette review of the match, to be fair.
Dude, I do love.
I'm sure Jim Cornette would hate one PW, but that's fine. You know, Tyler Devlin, when he did he came off the balcony at the first show.
Yeah.
And Jim Cornette retweeted it and slagged him off, and it was like a really cool moment for us. We were like, Jim Cornette said we're shit. We loved it.
I think anything that Jim Cornette, it's going to trend, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And I don't think there are many things nowadays that Jim Cornette does actually like. To be fair, if you listen to his podcast, but
I still listen to his podcast though.
Oh, he's so
Dave,
funny.
I'm looking at the clock here. There's the 2 minutes left. You did not even ask me about faith.
Well, that's what I was going to bring you on to now. So,
all right, okay. Do you know what? It's your show. You're the host. I'm just ignorant. Fire away.
Or do you know what we could do, Steve? We could tee up a sequel. We could do another one of these, and we could go more into the faith side of things as well. Yeah, do it. Yeah. We have only got 2 minutes left, and the Lord deserves more than 2 minutes. So we'll bring that onto another podcast. We'll schedule that out later date. Lastly, Steve, you are the TNT champion of AW. Congratulations. Well done. What you've now done is you've issued an open challenge the following week on Dynamite. Who do you hope out of anybody in the world, the one wrestler that you would have that moment with ever, who would you like? Again, from any decade, from any era, from any promotion, who would you love to have had that opportunity growing up as a one-on-one?
Jeez. Well, when I was little, when I used to do my I had a bit more money as I was an older child, but when I was a younger child, we was a bit skint, and I only had 2 wrestling figures, and my 2 wrestling figures was Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Wow. So either one of those guys would do me. But I used to make them play about 15 different characters because I literally just had the 2.
Mate, I used to do that to boot to you. When you had a red team and a blue team, there could be anybody. England away, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool at home. Yeah, fantastic. Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really can't wait, further down the line when we do a catch-up podcast as well, where we're going to talk more about faith, about mental health, and how faith has helped you with that and helped you with 1PW as well.
This will draw you loads of listeners in. We'll do a comparative religious study where you can talk about Christianity, which is your bag, and I can explore some sort of Vedic Buddhist principles, and we can compare and contrast the various monotheistic or polytheistic religions, because there is no right or wrong answer as long as you've got some kind of faith and you believe in something greater than yourself. I think that we all win.
Amen. Steve Gauntley from 1PW, it's been a pleasure, brother. Thank you very much for your time. God bless you. And this has been Wrestling with Faith.
No worries. God bless, mate. See you later.